The N64 is without a doubt one of the most popular retro consoles when it comes to collecting, and it's got a great library of games, but so do other retro consoles. So then what makes collecting for the N64 so special? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. So the first reason the N64 is great to collect for is because of how substantial its games are. Many consoles typically have a lot of great games, but they also have a ton of filler garbage. And while the N64 still has its fair share of mediocre titles, the vast majority of its games are still actually worth playing. And while that means a lot when it comes to collecting because, well, quality sells. Which makes the N64 definitely more desirable, especially when it comes to collecting an entire library of games for a single system. Yet having a bunch of great titles is still not enough on its own to justify collecting for a single console. And that leads me to my second reason, which is the games being cartridge based. I mentioned this a while back on another video I made which discussed how purchasing loose N64 games is still enjoyable. I have never met anyone in my life who collects older video game discs solely on their own, and that says a lot because people don't want a small GameCube disc, what they want is the entire case and manual. And while that means you're going to be paying more for games complete in box, but with cartridge based systems, buying loose still feels substantial, and that's a major upside for the N64 nowadays, as going for a loose set of games still feels great compared to just buying discs on their own for a PS1. Moving along, my next reason for N64 collecting is the price. Oftentimes, many people get locked out of a specific market because of how expensive it is, and while I'd love to start collecting Neo Geo AES games, that's just not feasible nowadays. But buying N64 cartridges is feasible because most are relatively affordable and have actually gone down in price over the past year. Now of course, you'll still always run into those heavy titles like Super Bowling and Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut, but the vast majority of games are still reasonably affordable. Now keep in mind, I am talking about loose cartridges. If you're wanting to go the complete in box route, truthfully, you probably missed the boat just because of how expensive some box titles are nowadays. But again, for those that don't mind grabbing their games loose, this system is an awesome one to collect for. But there is still one more reason I recommend N64 collecting, and that is the convenience of it. For example, I really enjoyed collecting for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, but it was near impossible to find any games locally for that handheld, which kind of took away a lot of the fun when it came to collecting games for it because I was stuck buying them off eBay. But with the N64, you will not have that problem. The games are easy to find, and the console itself sold almost 33 million units on its own, meaning there's plenty of supply going around. And on that note, I thought I'd take the opportunity to show off just a few N64 games that are probably still worth grabbing nowadays, with the first one being Bomberman Hero. Now some people were hit or miss with this game, but it's still a great substitute for Mario 64 and it has a great soundtrack along with easy to use controls. Another perk is that the game is relatively inexpensive as of the making of this video, making an easy purchase for collectors. The next game I'd recommend is definitely F-Zero X, which to me is a no-brainer. This is my favorite F-Zero game, and although many people like the newer GameCube GX version, to me F-Zero X is the better game. This is because of how easy it is to understand for newer players and the fact that it's the title that pushed the series into 3D racing. And the next game is Doom 64. This game is not a port of the original Doom, but rather its own unique game, but sadly it did get overshadowed by other first-person shooters at the time. Yet this is still a very faithful Doom game, and all the blood, monsters, and Doom-style level design is here. And my last N64 game to check out is Turok 2. I find nowadays Turok kind of gets forgotten about, but it's a great series that really pushed the N64 to its limits, and Turok 2 is no exception to that. The game runs great and has super nice visuals along with tons of different weapons to try out. For anyone that likes first-person shooters, this is a really good title to try. And well, that wraps up my video. I'm going to be honest in saying that I'm very biased when it comes to the N64 as it's a system I've had a lot of fun playing with and collecting for, but I'm sure other people have different opinions and I'm all for hearing what you have to say in the comments below. And with that said, I just want to say a huge thank you so much for watching to the end. Please subscribe as it really does help the channel grow, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.